Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. We want to welcome you to our webinar today. We're excited to have Kevin Naughton from Innovia Consulting. Kevin is one of our application consultants, and he will be presenting on Power BI 101, an intro to Power BI and transform data into insights. And I know you're all eager to get started. So before I pass it over to Kevin to cover on this topic, I just want to remind you that we are recording this webinar as well as all of our webinars, and it will be posted to our on-demand webinar library for you to review again, or if you'd like to share it with anyone. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to type them into the questions box. We'll get them answered during our Q&A time at the end of our session. So now I'm going to pass it on over to Kevin to kick off our presentation.
Thank you, Angie. Welcome, everyone. As Angie had stated, this is Power BI 101. We will be talking about Power BI, some of the basics of it and what it does and what you can do with it. And we'll hit a little bit of and show what it has, what it's entailed, and maybe a few tips or tricks along the way and how to get going on it. That's me. Of course, if you want to write down a phone number or email, if you have any questions after this that pop up, feel free. Happy to answer anything you guys might think of later. And as I said, this is Power BI training. This is 101. This is more of an introduction into the navigation of Power BI. We'll put some stuff together. We'll look at data a little bit, and we'll build some models, some visualizations, and we'll show you the two different types of Power BI: desktop and the online service. And then we will, depending on time, maybe look at a function here or two, some of the things that Power BI can accomplish. So first things first, we're going to look at Power BI desktop. So this is the Power BI desktop. And the desktop is where you do your building of your reports. There's an online service that is more for the sharing and viewing of reports. You can do some building in the online version and service, but the desktop is more robust, especially once you start getting into some of the functions and some of the DAX sequencing. It's just a lot more robust. So I encourage everyone, when they build reports, to build it on the desktop and then publish it to the service. And another thing about the service is if you build something in the service, you can't change it in desktop, but that's not the case in the other way around. So building it in desktop is kind of the basic way to go. So we'll get a quick run through of this, and this is your blank canvas right here if you're looking at the main part of the screen. And then over the side, there's different ways of filtering, different visualizations, and different data table fields that can be brought in. And once you bring those in, you can look at your data, you can manage your relationships, and in order to combine multiple data sets over different platforms and ultimately bring the end user the reporting needs that they're looking for. So we'll do that. We'll bring in some basic data. I have some sample data from, if anyone's familiar with the database in Kronos for Dynamics 365. We'll be using that as our data set, and we'll build some basic data, some basic visualization. So let's get going on that right now. So this, as I said, is the desktop, and first things first is you have to get data. And there's a couple different ways to get data. Up in the top in the ribbon, here's some frequently used different types, and we're going to use Excel today for this one, but you can set this up and we can set it up for you to link into your data from your ERP system or whatever it might be. You can get things from the web, you can get all sorts. But for this exercise, we're just going to bring in some pre-established data from Excel. So it's pretty straightforward. You look at the Excel document that you're looking to pull in. For this one, we're going to use the sales data, which, as I stated, is the Kronos. It establishes a connection. And for some reason, it's taking a while. Okay, so here are the three different types of Excel tables it's pulling in. And you can see this blue, and if anyone's familiar with Excel, this means an Excel table, and these two are the tabs down at the bottom. One is called item, one is called sales, and so you can just pull it in. And if you click on it, it gives you a little preview of what you're looking at. This is the data that we're pulling in, and then we can just hit load. It takes a second. And as it's pulling in the data, this is, as we said, this is the blank canvas. And over here, these are the multiple different types of pre-built charts and graphs. There's pie charts, there's maps, tables, matrices, slicers. There's all sorts of things that are pre-built in. There's actually some stuff on the web that you can get that are out there, but this has pretty much everything you're going to need. And then as you see this fields tab, we can open this up. This is the sales data table that was brought in. So this is the data here, and these are all the different columns that we brought in. And just to take a look at it, we have, this is our reporting template. This is our data. You can go here and you can actually see the data that's brought in. This is it. This is all our data if we need to go, and this is where we can manipulate it from here if we need to. We can create columns, add columns in the Power Query. We will take a look at that. And then this is the relationship. So what this shows you is we have one data set right here, this sales data. We can actually bring in multiple data sets, countless data sets, and you can link them up together. And we'll show you how to do that in a little bit. So for now, let's just make a simple chart. Okay, so we want to click somewhere in our table, and you can see down here it's just page 1. It's just a basic. And then here are the different types of visualizations. And for now, we'll just create the first one, a stacked bar chart. And this is our chart. And this is what everyone will see, the white part. They will not see this lighter gray area when you publish these reports. This lighter gray will not be seen. They will be able to filter, of course, but they will not see any of this other stuff. So this is what you need to worry about that the end user will see. And this is where we build the report. So as you can see over here, we want just a simple sales amount by customer. So let's take this sales amount and put it in our values. And all you do for that is you can either click it or you can drag it and drop if you want to specific. When you click it, it realizes what you're trying to do with it. Obviously, sales amount is a decimal. It'll bring it into values. Certain things it'll bring into axis. But if you want to just drag it how you want, you can pull it in. And we'll bring in the customer name over here to the axis. And you can see we have a simple, pretty straightforward chart, and shows you the whatever 6 companies and their data. And from here, this right here, this setup, the fields. This is where you set up your table, your chart, your graph, whatever it might be. This little paintbrush, this little paintbrush is where you do all the formatting. So there's a lot of formatting in this, and we'll get into some of these. There's probably, you could spend hours formatting in this and making it, look viable and usable for the end user. And then for certain charts, graphs, whatever it might be, certain visualizations, there are analytics. And this one, you can add a constant line. Some you cannot, of course, some you can. It just depends on the chart. But, excuse me. So just as an example, we have our title here, and it says it's the title of the field, sales actual amount. So if we want to change it, we can literally just start typing however we want to. And that changes the title, as you can see right here and we can put it in the middle, whatever you might want to do. Same thing with if you want to change the field name, that says sales amount down here, you can just double click right there, and you can start typing, and it'll change whatever you want it to say. And then from there, you can add more, obviously a lot to this. If you want to open up the x-axis where it says sales, you can show the title. Let's just put the thousands on there. So it shows in thousands. You can change the color, you can change the size of this, and that's something it's a good way to play around to kind of get comfortable with the system. is because this is just formatting, but it really gets you to understand what you're looking at. So now we have a pretty straightforward sales data chart. So what we're going to want to do next is we want to build a relationship. So this is one sales data, but this particular data table doesn't have everything we need. So we're gonna grab more. So let's go back to our Excel. We'll pull in the same file. And you see, remember this, we brought in the sales data table. This time we're going to bring in the item. There's more to this, and this has information on it that's not on the sales data table. But as you can see, it doesn't really look great. The columns kind of are, well, this one's missing a field. This is not what we want for the column category. So let's manipulate that before we bring them. So you can transform data. And if you do hit load, you can always go back and transform the data at a later point. So this is the Power Query, and this is our data sets. This is the link between the Power BI reporting functionality and then the data sets, whatever you're using as your data source. And our two different data that we've brought in was our sales data that we saw before, and then this is our item table. And of course, there's a lot of manipulation you can do up here. You can change rows, move columns, add rows. You can merge, you can append, you can do all sorts of different aspects in here. There's, of course, all these change just the way the fields are looking. You can put formulas in here, and then if you at a Power BI 201 class, that you can actually just create columns and type in some DAX and some functions in here. A lot of it is very similar to Excel, so if you're kind of a power user in Excel, you could get the hang of it pretty quickly. Of course, you can add columns, and if you need to make whatever you need to do. This is just viewing. We won't really talk about the diagnostics today. So we have this chart, but we don't really like this. I want this. I don't want these columns to be the column headers. I want this to be the column headers. Let's go home. And this button here, use first rows as headers. It takes that first row and makes that the column. Okay. Except this one needs a name. So in order to change this, we can just double click it and change it to item number. Okay. So now we have a little bit more usable table that can sync up with this. And then so once we're done with the Power Query, we want to close out of here and apply. So you can either just close it out without changing anything. You can apply and keep working, but we're going to close and apply. And then you can see here the item. This is the new item table. So this is our new table. We can merge this into a current table or into this current database, kind of however you want to do it. So what we want to do here is we want to manage the relationships between the two. So let's just verify that everything's kind of what we want. So as you can see, the first table has the sales data. That's our first original table that we brought in. Our second table is our item table. And what it's doing is it's found the item description, the column description in both of them. And it's linking them up and saying that's our common factor amongst them, which is great that it found automatically. But for this instance, I don't want to use item description because in a lot of ERP systems and in Dynamics particularly, if you have a sales order, you can just go change the item description to match that particular sales order. So therefore, there would be a discrepancy between the item. Now you can't change the item number, but you can change the description. So I want to change this to item number. I don't want it to look for the item description only. So we're going to create a new relationship. Okay, and so we're going to first take our sales data, our original data database, and you can see it's grabbing the description and it's linking up the description. I don't want that. So we're going to make this item number, and down here in the other table, we're going to make this item number. Okay. And so there's many to one, and then one to one, one to many, and many to many. And what this does is it's how the relationship looks at each other. So this is just an item database here. There is one listing of each item. So there's only going to be one 1896-S item on here. On this sales data table, this is the sales, all the sales invoices for the time period. Obviously, you can sell that item more than once, so there can be many of them, and we want them to link up many to one. So we want this relationship, and we want it in a single direction, not both. So of course, if there was multiple here, you can link it up many to many, or if it was reversed, or if it's just a one-to-one relationship, you can do that as well. For this instance, we're going to go many to one. So here's our new relationship, but we don't obviously want this to be the active one. We want this one to be the active. So we highlight this and then highlight this, and you click OK. And now let's create a new visual from this. So we have back to our charts over here, and we're going to create a stacked column chart. So what I did was, this was still highlighted and I hit the stacked column chart, but we want this to be a bar chart. So I'll go back to that. You got to click somewhere in the empty space and then select the new visualization you want. So we now have our new chart. So from here, we're going to take our item number. We're going to pull that in. We're going to take our item category code, pull that in. You see these are from this database, and then from there, we're going to take our sales, let's do quantity for this one, and bring it to values. Okay? So it's taking some data from one table and some data from the other table, and since we linked them from item number, it's pulling in the correct amount. So so now we can have a relationship between the two tables. We can, of course, let's just see, we can turn on the data labels so we get some amounts. And as you can see, they're negative because their shipments, the quantity shipping out is a negative amount. So we don't want that. So we're going to want to change this database. So let's go ahead and transform this data. And this button here takes us back to our Power Query. You'll recognize that when it pulls up. This is where we manipulated the data from when we first loaded it from the item table. So this is our database, and this is, you can see right here, is the quantity. It's all negative numbers. So there's a couple different ways you could do this, but pretty straightforward way on doing this is you can actually just apply a method to this particular table. So let's just literally apply it, multiply it times -1. And then, so I just changed the quantity. But what I wanted to show you over here is you can see where it says multiplied column. This is the steps that we've taken to manipulate the data that we've done here. If you ever want to, if you made a mistake did something that you want to reverse, you just literally delete this with this red X. It'll take you back to where you were. So we could delete that, takes us back to the number. So we'll, okay. Pretty straightforward. Go back home, close and apply. Data refreshes. And all our numbers are now positive. So that's just one way that you can pull in data, manipulate data. So let's do that again. Let's pull in a different file this time, and we're gonna look at a relationship. So let's bring in this other Excel file, this salespeople Excel file. All right. So we're gonna want to bring in this table embedded into Excel, and it's just, as you can see, it's got the code, salesperson code, their name, and the commission. So let's load that up. Okay, so you can see we have our item, our sales data, and salespeople. So remember, before we had managed relationships, so there's of course multiple ways to do a lot of different things in here, and this is our relationship. And so our original sales data file that we brought in, it has the two different relationships. It automatically came in with the description, and we decided to make that inactive. We made this item number active. So let's make this a little bigger so we can see. You can see the item number, and that's why this is a solid line. That's why this is a dashed line. So of course, there's multiple ways to do something. So this salesperson code is what we want to be matched up with this one. So you can also just literally take it and drag and drop it on top of what you want. And it pulls in a relationship. So this is, again, it knows that you're looking for probably a many to one relationship going in a single direction. You can, if it's something that you want different, double click on it and we're back to this screen again, and you can change whatever you need to change. So that's how you would create it's another quick, easy way to make a new relationship where you just drag and drop. It's a little bit easier. So let's go back to our report view and let's make a new page. We have this page one here. Let's make a second page. Excuse me. So let's call this salespeople. So let's create a new chart. Let's do this one. A couple things with this chart. So we have our chart here, and we're going to drag some different parts of the different databases on here. So we got our salespeople. Let's drag that to the shared axis. Let's do our category code to our column series. Let's do the sales amount again to values, and do it to column values, and then let's do the quantity to line values. Okay, so what this is a little bit more of a complex chart than these basic, two axis charts. This is it's got a secondary axis over here. And what this is showing is that the sales, you can see by the legend up here, this is the item category, their sales amounts, and then it's all on this side is showing you the chart. And let's just make this a little bit easier to read. It's and we can change the background to there. And if you want this line, let's just kind of go through. I'll show you a little bit here. Let's take the data colors. Let's say that purple blends too much into this blue. You can, of course, just change that to however you want to. Just yellow, something different. It sticks out a little bit more. I don't know. But there's a lot, of course, that you can do within this, within the functionality of the formatting. So this is just another chart. It's another way to do it. Of course, anytime you want to go change these, you want to change the titles of them. You don't like sales amount actual. You just double click and type sales. Pretty straightforward. So there's one other let's make a new table here. Let's make a funnel chart, okay? Let's pull this up right here. And we'll just do a new, bring an item number, and then we'll do sales amount again. Okay, it's a pretty straightforward, simple chart, but it's kind of hard to see. So if you have this chart and you want to see it, this is what's called focus mode. So this basically just visualizes the whole thing full screen. That's all that this is. So, but you want a little more, something more to this. You don't want just a simple chart. Let's go to the formatting, and we go to this data colors. It's just a blank color. We want a little more oomph to this chart. So here's this fx's function for a lot. So let's click on the function. And so this is, we can make some more dynamic coloring. And what this does is can tell you more of a story than just here's the sales amount. So let's take it by quantity, and we'll make the color by quantity. And we're going to have, well, here, you know what? I'll just show you at first for sales amount. Show you what it looks like. So obviously the one with the most is the brightest, and it dims as you go. So but we want to change it. So we want this now to go by quantity. So let's look at quantity. and we don't want that dark color. We'll have just a different color. And so the lowest will be the orange, the highest will be the blue, and of course change it however you want to. So you can see this gives you a little bit more information for somebody who understands what they're looking at here. And you can see these blue is the higher quantity. So this one has the highest sales and a high quantity, as you'd expect for based on whatever this data is. But this one has a high quantity and a lower sales amount. So obviously, the price is significantly lower. But this can show you a little bit more than just a basic color. You can build in a lot of smart coloring for this, and you can actually set up to have specific values, specific colors, and that's something that you can play around with. You can do a lot with that. So let's go back to the report, and you can see this little chart. But like I said, this focus mode is really how you get in here. So we've looked at basic data. We've kind of done some relationships. We've connected some tables. We've put a lot of things together. And one of the things that's in Power BI that you can do that is actually kind of a neat functionality for the end user is hierarchy. And the most common, easiest example to understand in hierarchy is posting date. Dates have a hierarchy. There's, within a year, there's a quarter, within a quarter, there's a month, within a month, there's a day. It makes sense. So when there's a date field, it automatically creates a hierarchy. But we might want a hierarchy that's not so obvious to the system. So we need to build that. So let's, within item category codes, there's item numbers. So we want a hierarchy for those two particular fields. So what you do is the submissive fields, so the lower field, the day versus the month. So the item number is within categories code. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a hierarchy by taking the item number field and dragging it on top of the item code. And so it creates a hierarchy, just like the dates down here. So then the hierarchy codes within category codes are item numbers. So, pretty cool. So what can we do with that? So let's, on the same chart here, let's make a pie chart. And we'll go back to our favorite sales account as our values. But in the legend, we don't want to use our item category or our item number. We're going to use our hierarchy as our legend. Okay. So, fine, looks great. But let's turn it on basically. And for this particular mode, we're going to look at focus mode. So if you ever click on a part of the chart, it just kind of highlights it for you. So it shows you the table over here, shows you that these are the chairs. Over miscellaneous, click it again, turns it off. But since we have a hierarchy turned on, what you can turn on right here, it's called drill down. Okay. So what that does is it enables you to click into the hierarchy. So if we're looking at what makes up chairs, we want to click on it. It brings you to a new pie chart of the chairs. Okay, which is kind of cool. You click this little up button, you can go over here to the miscellaneous. You can go to the tables, whatever you want to do. And for reference, if colors, they're all here, the more you can, they're all based in here. But there's also, and I should have maybe said this earlier, there are some color schemes that are built in. We're just using the basic one for this, but you can see there's a lot of pre-built color schemes if you need, and you can actually create your own. And within that, if you can have a background for it that can be your company's logo or whatever you might want to do, and then your company's colors can be in there, and you can save that, and so you can have that be your default whenever you create a new chart for your company. It can be in there. So another thing with this is just like all these charts in Power BI, they are interactive. And so what you can see here, let's turn off the drill down for now, the hierarchy. So if I click on this chair here, you notice it deselects these. And maybe for this process, we'll turn off the colors here. So here's our original chart, and this one, they both have the item number in them. This one has the item hierarchy. So when we click on the category, so we want to see what's made up of tables, it just shows you on this chart too. So whatever charts you have, it will select through them and play around. Just likewise, when you turn on the drill down and we go into what's made up in the miscellaneous category, it'll change this chart to just show you as well. So for the end user, that makes this, it can make it really cool. So if you have a sales manager who wants to go get specifics of his or her sales reps, then he can click on something and can show you details for just that sales rep, whether it's margin, whatever they want to see. You can set this all up to have it be specific, dynamic, clickable chart. So it makes it, it's kind of a cool way to do this. Couple other things that we're going to look at to make this kind of an interactive chart. They have what's called slicers, and if anyone's familiar with Excel, you can you know what a slicer is. So we're just going to, for this, create a slicer, and we'll just do it by date. So we're just going to take our date field, put it in here, and then you can see here's the slider. We can also just click it over to selection field, but let's make this make it a little bigger so you guys can see. So within this slicer, this you can put it on your, if you have a title page, people can look through, and you can select here, and this will change the charts. As you're seeing, it's noticing this is changing what's in these fields. But what we want to do for this slicer is we're going to click this sync slicer up, and this shows you what it does. So this is obviously where it's visible. This is what it actually affects. So we want this slicer, it always affects the page that it's on, just like any charts will always affect the page that it's on, but we want it to affect all the pages. Okay, let's close out of there. So this particular slicer, we want it to affect all pages. So if we look at, say, this chart here, we go back over here and select 2019, it'll affect the entire table. You see the trend line, or the quantity line is different now. Everything's a little different. So it changes it for the entire workbook. And then of course since it's a hierarchy, you can open it up and whatever you might, if you want specific days, any kind of hierarchy code you can put in here, build whatever you want on that. So so another thing that people can tend to like, since this is an end user specific dynamic kind of reporting, it's not just you send them a PDF or you send them an Excel file. This is more interactive. You want them to be able to move through. And I will just tell you, on the service, there's pages just like you see here that's on the left hand side, but before they had that, we had to build buttons, and I'll show you how to do that, because it is kind of a neat feature. And some actually customers still use those, even though they now have the pages, and I'll show you. So let's just let's create a separate page here. We'll do it this one. So let's create just a blank card. Let's say this is the title page, and we just want to create a card. And so this is where you can really get to how a sheet can look, and you can show a lot of different data. And I'll give you an example of this before we go here. But this is just a blank card, and it has one field on here, and we're going to make it our sales amount. Okay, pretty straightforward. Let's open this up a little bit. No big deal. So this, you make it colorful, make it a visual for them. But then what we also want to do with this is create a button for them. Let's move this stuff kind of out of the way. So let's insert, come on, there we go. So insert a button, and we're going to insert a blank button. Okay, so you see this blank button up here. It really doesn't do anything as of yet, but we want it to do something. So we're going to go over here to action. We're going to turn it on, what action do we want it to do? We can have it, bookmark something. We can drill through like we saw before. You can actually drill to separate second pages. You can have it go to a specific website or a Q&A, and this is designed to, this Q&A is a text field that you can start typing, and it's supposed to give you what you want. So if you say in the Q&A, sales by customer, it can give you a basic chart of sales by customer. But for this one, we're going to just do page navigation. And we're going to have it which page we want to go to. So we'll have it go to our salespeople page. Okay. And so we want these to be, we want it to, so when somebody clicks on the sales amount here, this button gets triggered. So I'll show you what you do on that. First, we're going to put them in the same spot, put one over each other, and a nice, you can drag them and drop them if you want to, that's fine. But one way to do it is right here in the general. This is literally the X position, the Y position, the width, and the height by pixels. So if you make them the same number, let's go 120, 150, 300, 150. Okay. And if you make this one the same numbers, it'll be in the same spot. Now, we don't want that to look like that because we don't want a background on. We don't want the outline. We want it invisible. We want them to see this. Okay. So what you do is, and then also another kind of side note, when you're in this Power BI desktop, it enables you to click around any charts you want, click anywhere you're looking for. But if this were in the service for the end user, that they won't be able to click on it because clicking on it would trigger the button. So here you have to hit Control and then click the button. So then you click on the sales amount, it takes you over to the sales tab. So instead of clicking down here for the sales, you can have someone click their sales numbers. Sorry, their sales numbers. They want a little more in data. They just click on it. It brings them to detail. So this can be, again, you can have a title page which has some basic data, and whether it's margin, sales, quantities, whatever category codes we're looking at here. It enables that end user to click on something and get a little bit more detail. You can have a separate page that you can bring them to, that they can see a little bit more what they want. So that's kind of a neat way to do this. So we've gone through a lot of visualizations here, a lot of charts. Let's take a look at, so these are some basic, and there's obviously a ton more on it. We can do hours just on formatting for all these things. But we're not going to today, just get a little taste of Power BI. So what we'll do right now is let's take a little bit of look at our database here. So let's go to our Power Query just to kind of show you some of the things that we may be able to do. Okay, so here we have our sales data. This is our original database that has all of our invoices, and it can be linked to an Excel file. Like you can actually set it up to, if you put in a folder where if you save a new file in that folder, it'll grab the new file, which is a neat feature. You can actually it can be set up to obviously read from either your ledger entries or whatever it might be from Dynamics and pull that in automatically. But for this, let's just say we want to bring in some more information from this to this table, but we want it from our existing charts. So what we're going to do here is we're going to merge queries. Okay, so we're in our sales data, and we're gonna hit merge queries. So let's do salesperson code, and then we want to pull that from our salespeople that we brought in, and we want to pull in the salesperson code as well. Okay, and it's saying we found a match for everything. We're good to go. Let's pull it in. So now you can see this column doesn't really help us at all. It just says table, and it's got these two weird little arrows going in opposite directions. What this is basically stating is we have our whole table ready to go in this column. What do you want to do? So you click here on the arrows, and it's basically what do you want to bring in? Well, we don't need to bring in the code because we've already got that here. So we can bring in, let's bring in the salesperson and their commission number, your commission percentage. And if you want, let's just really quick look at, oh, wrong one. You can see here's the code, here's the salesperson's name, what that code stands for, and then the commission that they get paid out on. So now we go to the end of our table. We actually have our sales commission in here. So what can we do with that? We can actually, let's create a new column. Let's go in here, add a column. Let's do a custom column. And this is where you can actually start building something that's not in here. You can do little formulas. And like I said, a lot of this is very, very similar to Excel formulas. There are some different aspects of this where you can get some row level security and some other things that don't have anything to do with Excel and doesn't work. But for a lot of this stuff, it's going to be very similar. So what do we want to call this? Let's call it commission dollars. So this is the commission for each sales line. So let's go down. We want to find our sales amount. So you'd select we'd find the column that you're looking for in this table, highlight it, select insert. So now it's brackets this column, pulls it in. And what do we want to do? We want to multiply that. So literally on the keyboard, just hit multiply. That times our newly brought in commission from our salespeople table. So we pull that one in and hit insert. We got a check mark saying it's good. The way it was written is okay. Hit okay. And from this, we can see that Annette made $6.58 in commission on her sale of $164. So obviously from here you can build a lot. We'll go through that one again to kind of show you how this is done. So let's create another one. Let's do gross margin. So let's just do a simple margin of sales amount, and we'll do this with just the cost, but the cost is in a negative, so I'm just going to do plus cost amount, hit insert, hit OK. Okay, so here we have our gross margin. So $59 in this particular order is going to be our 164 less our 105. So this obviously helps a ton with report building. So you don't have to do these calculations. It's there for you. And then from there, let's close out of here. Sorry, I clicked too quickly. It's not updated yet. Okay, so let's go to this one, and as you can see here, let's just make a, I don't know, make a new, let's go over here, create a table, and let's do it by salesperson. Let's do the customer. Let's do sales amount and gross margin. So you can see here, if you've obviously maybe this is a little much. Let's kill the customer name. You can see all the different invoices she had, that the sales margin on here. You can build a lot with it. So we're just pulling in our new gross margin that we want. You can even actually just do it even simpler than that, but you can pull in whatever you need to do, show the margin, show some of these things up, but it pulls in that extra field that we just created, that is a calculated field. And you, of course, can go into do a lot with that. Let's just take a look. when you do create a column, you can also, another thing is when you create the column, you can use this as your newly created calculated column within this. So if we were to add another column, just to show you here, since we have our gross margin that we just calculated, let's do gross margin percentage. So we take our gross margin this is our newly calculated field, and we will divide that by the sales amount. And you can see the percentages. So, and another real thing I'll show you quickly on this, because that's ugly. You don't want to say 0.359987857. You want it to look nice. So let's do that now. So let's close out of here. We created that new field. Okay. So we have our field over here. This gross margin percentage. We have our gross margin commission. We don't really like the way this looks though. So let's click on this. And this is where you can format all sorts of text. Oh, it's formatted as a text right now. So good thing here. I'll show you how to get back to there and click this. So you can go back to the Power Query and it's formatted as a text. Let's first change it to a percentage here. So sorry, I went a little quick on that, but from when you highlight the column under transform, then you go to data type, percentage, and of course you can click any of these. But it doesn't work real well if it's set up as a text or in any field, because it doesn't particularly like that. So now it's better here. Okay. So now you can see we have it's set up as a percentage, but it still doesn't look great. So how do you want it to be seen? Visually, how do you want to see? So you can change this, of course, to be a percentage. And let's just have 1 decimal point. Okay, now let's go over to let's make a new table here. And let's do customer name. And we have our gross margin percentage. And it's an addition, so we actually don't want sum, take the average. And if you wanted to, you can create multiple fields to get it. So you can see the average margin, and you could even create a sum of the sales and a sum of margin, and then divide it out again. But we'll just, for this explanation, show the margin so you can see where your high margin customers are. Or if you wanted to do this by sales rep, you could do that as well and show that kind of aspect of it. So there's a lot to do here, as you can see, and none of these charts look really good at all. And I'll show you a better one here right now. But as you can see in Power BI, there's a lot that you can do. There's a lot of tables. There's a lot of interaction. There's a lot of ways to move through this and see the kind of data you want to get out of the system. It's a great way where you can build this, whether it's your finance person or a manager, or whoever it might be, an analyst builds these tables, and you can have them, you can share them on the service. And we'll look at that now, just a quick high-level version of that. On what you can do with that. So if we were done with this and we were all ready to go, we just hit publish, and I'll show you what one would look like. And that would bring it to, if you get it all set up, you would publish it to your Power BI service. And I'll show you what that looks like now, and then we'll break for questions. So this is mine. This is the home screen. You can have a lot of workspaces. I have my one within my companies, and then there's training one here, which is what we're in. But different teams, different aspects of the company, you can set up all sorts of workspaces. And you can actually, from here, there's a couple neat things you can do. You can give access to different people who can be, a viewer, members. You can change who you want to be. So someone can you can set up workspaces for the sales reps, or first workspaces for operations, whatever it might be, and you can have just them be able to view it, or you can have just management be able to view a specific report. And you can have them as viewers so they can't mess anything up if you need. But then what you have from here is within the workspace, you can see some of the things we've done, and this is a longer version of what we've kind of built. If a full class is, what you can build from here, and you can see this is the same data we've been looking at, and you can see the pages over here that we were looking at, and you can see it in full screen. And this is how this is kind of what we were looking at. It's exactly what we were doing, what we were on the way to build, and it's the same thing. You click around, you have your files there. I created this little home button to always bring you back to where you want to go. If here's another filter, we can filter on just sample inventory, change the amounts, inventory, pull it out, sales by person. Here's another thing. This is back to our original chart again. And what you can see on this one is I set this up so if you on this, I don't know, any of these people, you drill through details, brings you to another information that brings you his specific information, his item sales and his commission for just him. And then you go back and then you can do this for this guy. And it changes that to just be for his information. And then you can always go back to the home screen. You can put in filters if you need. You can click on items, categories. There's a lot you can do. Or you can, if you want to go to a specific page, you can just go to this miscellaneous page. And so this is a step chart, of course, and you can see here, this is where we can put in a red line. You can specifically call out, I want the margin to be everything over this specific red line. You can show maps on where most of our sales are going, and you can also have interactive charts, and just like this one, you can move forward, build it. I want to see just what's in Chicago, all the chairs that we sold in Chicago, so on and so forth. And if I need to see the tables in Atlanta, I can click here and then move on and so on and so forth. So there's a lot you can do with Power BI, as you can see, and this is a little bit cleaner way to look at it than our rudimentary desktop version that we were just looking at. It's got a lot of the same information, as you can see, but it looks better. It just, once you get over to here, this you can have it so the end user, you publish it, it looks like this, and the end user can just fly through it, whatever they want to do, get the information. You can set up multiple databases, multiple reports, dashboards. You can have multiple workspaces for different people. You can even go into have row level security, which I think I mentioned earlier, where if a specific person pulls up this information, they don't see all of it. They might only see Annette and Richard, and then the next person pulls up and only sees Deb, and so you can see specifically, you can have that set up based on their username when they log into the service here. So again, there's a lot you can do with it. We've just scratched the surface of this, of course, but yeah, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you,
I
Kevin.
guess I'll send it back over to you.
Yes, as Kevin stated, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to type those into the questions box so we can get them answered for you. I'll give just a few moments before we wrap everything up.
Mm-hmm. And if there are questions, you can feel free to email me, and we can, if you want this set up, we can always set up sessions to go through this stuff in a little more detail. I've done sessions with companies where we can have people build this exact report or whatever reports we might want to do, and they can walk through it with us, and we can show them how to use the system, and they come away after a few hours, ready to go. So we can set that up as well.
All right, well, I think that is all that we have for you today, Kevin. No questions have come through.
Okay.
So I just want to thank everyone for attending our webinar, or if you're watching on demand, we thank you for taking some time out to join us. And thank you, Kevin, for presenting today.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And I just want to make you all aware of our new training workshops that we have going on. We have a variety of training workshops to choose from. So visit our workshop page, and that's inovia.com/workshops for more information, and so you can get registered on the workshop that fits for you. And we do have another webinar coming up before the end of the year. Next Tuesday, December 15th, we have Gary Harpenow and Kevin Clifford from Inovia Consulting, and they're going to be presenting on enhance your organizational culture with continuous process improvement. So check out our website for more of our upcoming events, and that's inovia.com/events. And Inovia has a podcast. If you have not heard of it already, it's called the Inovia Conversation. And we just want to encourage you to listen to our selection that our hosts, Steve Waltz and Jeff Pergolski, have provided to us. And you can find out about all the different podcast platforms to listen to on our podcast page. And that's inovia.com/podcast. So check out the selection and subscribe so you'll get notified when those new episodes air. All right, well, we thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you soon on another Inovia webinar.